regarding occult knowledge and how it relates to the rituals of Silent Hill, it begs the question, what exactly is ritual magic, and how is it used in the game? To answer this question, please consider the following passage from Eliphas Levi's book entitled Transcendental Magic, Its Doctrine and Ritual, as translated by Arthur Edward Waite, a source I will refer to several times throughout this video series to better understand and describe a bit of the underlying philosophy behind ritual magic that appears in Silent Hill. It's a bit of a long quotation here, but stick with me. Quote, "Supreme intelligence is necessarily reasonable. God, in philosophy, may be only a hypothesis, but he is a hypothesis imposed by good sense on human reason. To personify the absolute reason is to determine the divine ideal. Necessity, liberty, and reason, these are the great and supreme triangle of the Kabbalists, who name reason Keter, necessity Hokmah, and liberty Binah in their first or divine triad. Fatality, will, and power, such is the magical triad, which corresponds in things human to the divine triad. Fatality is the inevitable sequence of effects and causes in a determined order. Will is the directing faculty of intelligent forces for the conciliation of the liberty of persons and the necessity of things. And power is the wise application of will, which enlists fatality itself in the accomplishment of the desires of the sage. When Moses struck the rock, he did not create the spring of water. He revealed it to the people, because occult science had made it known to himself by means of the divining rod. It is in this like manner with all miracles of magic. A law exists which is ignored by the vulgar and made use of by the initiate. Occult laws are often opposed diametrically to common ideas. For example, the crowd believes in the sympathy of things which are alike and in the hostility of things contrary. But it is the opposite which is the true law. It used to be affirmed that nature abhors the void, but it shouldn't be said that nature desires it. Were the void not, in physics, the most irrational of fictions? In all things, the vulgar mind habitually takes shadow for reality, turns its back upon light, and is reflected into the obscurity which projects itself. The forces of nature are at the disposal of one who knows how to resist them. That which operates in the body of the planet repeats itself in us. End quote. And that last part, of course, that which operates in the body of the planet repeats itself in us, refers to as above, so below yet again. In short, magic is understood not in terms as one having such powers by their own right, but by being able to recognize what already exists in the implicate order of the universe, which is, of course, an ability that few have the patience for. I should also point out that the distinction between the terms ritual and ceremony in the context of magic is something that is important to know. I may use these terms interchangeably at times, but it is important to recognize the difference. A ritual involves a magical operation with a strict set of rules laid down by universal axioms, whereas a ceremony is more dynamic, representing an overall process or occasion performed on a certain day, perhaps. And you can also think of a ritual as more often maybe involving one person, whereas a ceremony would tend to have several people. This isn't always the case, of course, but that's a general gist of the difference between the two. Now, there is most certainly overlap between rituals and ceremonies as well, and Silent Hill contains mostly rituals as well as at least one ceremony. And I'm sure you could guess what the ceremony is. While driving into town, Harry sees a girl, an ethereal projection of Alessa Gillespie, suddenly walk out in the road in front of him. Harry abruptly swerves to avoid hitting her and is knocked unconscious by the resulting car crash. Harry wakes up to a hauntingly opaque version of the reality he once knew. He sets out on foot into this strange world after discovering that Cheryl has disappeared. Harry unwittingly finds himself entering the gateway to the other world. Harry enters an alleyway as sirens begin to blare, and he finds the remains of a corpse which appears to have been sacrificed. The siren serves to introduce great peril and symbolize destruction as well as death. The term siren is first used in Homer's Odyssey in order to describe mythical sisters or deceitful women who lure sailors to their destruction with their songs. In this case, Harry follows a projection of his daughter, or his adopted daughter, just before he is attacked. But of course, Harry isn't being led to his demise at all, nor is he being led by Cheryl, but rather Harry is being shown this by Alessa. It was Alessa who was responsible for the creation of Cheryl in the first place, and of course Alessa is Cheryl, Cheryl is Alessa. Now Cheryl intentionally left by the roadside in hopes of finding someone who could eventually help was part of Alessa's plan. She patiently watched Harry through the eyes of Cheryl, hoping for the time when she could be set free of her misery, or at the very least attempt to bring in the forces of good into this hellish evil that is holding Alessa hostage.